I want to thank Carolina Brass for being here this morning. I want to thank Stephen for putting together such a beautiful service. I did a little research about the brass interlude that you just heard. Salvation is created. What a beautiful piece. And I hope you just envisioned the moment that God became flesh in the birth of Christ. Because, of course, that's what Chesnikoff is talking about. When Jesus' salvation was created, when he came in our likeness and in our image, and of course he came to save us. Thus the title, Salvation is Created. That ties beautifully in with the Advent theme of today, not just love, but salvation. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. In fact, Jesus means salvation. Yeshua means salvation. But here's the question. Saved from what? From what and from whom are we saved? Well, with this Sunday being the fourth Sunday of Advent and the last Sunday of Advent, I want to talk about God's judgment. Yes, you heard me correctly. God's judgment. Now, it's been said that we really can't appreciate salvation until we understand God's judgment. Now, I'm perfectly aware that you guys didn't get all dressed up to come and hear about judgment and wrath. Such a beautiful service for a weighty and serious topic. But if you've been following the scriptures through Advent, then I don't see how we can avoid it. I mean, there's a reason why John the Baptist is talked about every year this time. He told the people who were coming out to the Jordan to be baptized, people who were repenting of their sins, he said, "Who told you about the wrath to come?" In other words, you're obviously here because you've heard the news that God's coming to judge, and he's coming in his wrath. Last Sunday, as we listened to the scripture from the book of Isaiah, I couldn't help but think how you guys were hearing that verse of scripture from Isaiah when it talked about God's wrath and retribution. Here it is. God will come, and he will come with vengeance, with divine retribution. He will come to save you. Now, you may have been thinking when you heard that, what happened to turning the other cheek? Where's the grace in that? Where's the love in that? But that's not anything new for us, is it, when we think about God's judgment? I mean, every Sunday we profess in the Apostles' Creed that we believe that God is coming to judge all people. In fact, we're going to say that in just a moment. And so this morning, I want to talk about that, and I want us to talk about how we should understand God's judgment. The first thing I want you to remember is this, that God's judgment and salvation are inextricably linked. They go together. You can't have one without the other. Again, Isaiah said it was vengeance and retribution was going to happen in the context of salvation. Now, again, I know for some people, the thought of God's judgment is disheartening. I know because they've told me. Makes them feel uncomfortable. It's the reason why some people don't like the Old Testament. Maybe you've heard that. Some people have actually told me, I don't like when you preach from the Old Testament. Just preach in the New Testament. There's just as much wrath, by the way, in the New Testament as there is the Old, so it's all in there. And you know, I was thinking while I was waiting to come up to preach that this whole idea of judgment may be what's keeping people from fully committing themselves